Yeah.
talking to Bernardo, he's had some made some interesting quotes after the game about Arsenal. He's criticised the referees and the officials, saying they allowed a sequence of time wasting events, and he's criticised the way Arsenal have approached the match, and he's compared sort of the difference between the rivalries of Arsenal, Liverpool, and those kind of games. He sort of suggested that Liverpool have always faced Man City head on with the intention of winning, whereas Arsenal haven't. And he's also suggested that it's perhaps a sort of a mentality factor in the fact that Liverpool have won a Premier League, they've won a Champions League, and Arsenal haven't. I mean, Arsenal have not won the Premier League for 20 years. They have won it, but this particular team hasn't won one for a long time. So would you agree with that? Do you think the rivalry is different?
I understand why rival fans wouldn't like those quotes, but as a City fan, hearing that or reading that, it's absolutely music to my ears because that's a person who gets it. Who absolutely gets it, and I think he's probably got a point to an extent. I do think Arsenal are still in role to Manchester City. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. They are very much they do sit back, and I know, of course, they've got good results against us, but they haven't been like dramatic, resounding successes. Let's be honest. They've come often with key players from City off the pitch, or at the result of at the end of scrappy, tight games. And I do feel like Liverpool had a lot more self belief as one of the major teams, in world football. Of course, Champions League winners, they won the league. Look, I understand Arsenal won the league, but I'm not sure Saliba can relate to Thierry Henry win the league. He was still in nappies. He has no idea what that success feels like because he hasn't experienced it himself for Arsenal. So I think that's a fair comment. And I don't even know if it's even sour. It could just genuinely be true. It could just genuinely be true that Arsenal will feel a little bit like they have to be cautious until they are that guy, so to speak. And right now, they are. Manchester City are, and City are a team to be feared. So, look, fair play, Arsenal. Look, I do think they've made considerable improvements. And every time they get a result against City, their mentality will improve. But I don't feel they'll ever come at us aggressively. Um, until they probably win the league. So I think he's got a point in there. But I do think it probably was slight sour grapes from Banana, but I don't care.
Yeah. Do you think as well that that sort of cautious approach from Arsenal going into big games throughout this season, do you think that is enough to maybe get them over the line to win a title, or do they have to take a similar approach to Liverpool under Klopp and go for games, go for the win against teams like City and the bigger clubs?
I would feel it's going to have to happen at some point. And I mean, it could happen anyway. They're good enough to get through and beat the smaller teams, in the league, the lesser quality teams. And then, if they scrape points against City and the likes of that, then it could be fine. You never know because all it takes is City to have an off season, and that's enough. But I do feel usually you need a statement win. You do need. I remember for City under Guardiola, it was the 17-18 season when we went away to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and I think that they were champions at the time actually. And De Bruyne scored a screamer. We beat them 1-0. We were absolutely fantastic. We were brilliant that day. And that was our statement of power and intent. And after that, City basically bullied the Premier League ever since then. And I do feel games like that just draw a line in the sand, and it sort of becomes your era, your moment. And I think you'd have to have like an Arsenal crest on your chest to say that's happened. I don't think it has happened yet. I don't think Arsenal had an era-defining win because even when they beat us last season, they weren't brilliant. It was scrappy. City looked underwhelming. It wasn't hardly a convincing win, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying I don't think even Arsenal fans fully believe that they have gone above City yet, because usually the big game, the big match, the big win kind of allows that mentality shift to happen. It doesn't need to happen to win the league. It doesn't, because there's only two games out of the entire season that you play the champions. So ultimately, if you win 36 and lose two or whatever, I know they draw one, but theoretically, it doesn't matter. It genuinely doesn't matter. But I would say that the balance of power hasn't shifted, and I'd be very surprised if that game is enough to make it feel that way.